ComC is your home for buying, selling, and flipping all the hottest trading cards. Their consignment marketplace is home to over 27 million cards across all sports, genres, and eras. With a ComC account, you can purchase cards from different sellers over time and ship them home together later, or immediately reprice them for sale on the ComC marketplace. To stay updated with ComC, please follow them on social media at CheckOutMyCards, one word, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. To learn about offers, promotions, and more at ComC, please visit blog.comc.com. You're listening to the WaxPackHero Sports Card Minute, a podcast where we discuss both the hobby and business sides of collecting. I'm your host, Mike Sommer, and I want to help you buy, sell, and trade your way into a collection you'll love. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the WaxPackHero Sports Card Minute. We are here today for part 2 of our ongoing Super Collector series. One of the things I love most about our hobby is that it provides just a huge variety of ways to collect. You can have so many different focuses, and we're going to talk about what focus Paul Lesko has with his collection. Paul is an attorney, and Paul's focus of his super collection is cards that are related to lawsuits within the hobby. And it's a fascinating idea, a fascinating concept, one that it probably takes an attorney to be super interested in, but that's one of the things that's so cool about this is because the hobby does provide him an avenue to have this super specialized focus. And we're going to talk a little bit about that with Paul, what his background is and why those cards are so meaningful to him. But first, I'm going to tell you about Underdog Collectibles, the online shop run by collectors for collectors that breaks new product every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday night. You can check them out at udogcollect.com to see what they're going to be breaking this week, or you can visit them at their brick and mortar shop in Knoxville, Tennessee, where they've got a full selection of wax, singles, and you can even watch some of those breaks live there in the shop. Check them out at udogcollect.com and tell them WaxPackHero sent you. All right, we are back for another segment of our ongoing series this year on super collectors. And today we've got Paul Lesko. Paul, you are known as a go-to source for legal analysis of issues related to the sports card industry. You've been on several different shows over the last couple of years whenever there's a legal issue that comes up. But what some may not know is that you've built quite a collection of cards that are related to those legal matters. And that's what we're going to dig into today as we kind of talk about what you've got as a super collection. So welcome to the show.
No, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Let's start maybe with your origin story. When did you start collecting cards?
So originally I started collecting cards back in the 80s, right around 84, 85, 86 was my peak time. And I really collected baseball cards, which was unfortunate because I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. And instead of focusing on basketball, like maybe Michael Jordan or something, I focused on Dwight Gooden. And so I had quite a collection of Dwight Gooden cards, which I thought for sure would have been worth a lot now, but no, I should have traded all those for Michael Jordan rookies, but that didn't play out well. As I got older, got busy with college and law school and kind of fell out of collecting for a little bit. But then when my kids were born in 2006 and 2008, probably like most people, I wanted to get something that I could give to the kids down the road, and the first thing that popped up to me is why not get them original sets, from 2006, get a Topps, complete set for them, 2008, do the same thing. And I had been away from collecting for such a long time that I hadn't seen memorabilia cards. I hadn't seen autographs, and it blew me away that that's what collecting was now, what was available now. So I kind of dove in, just trying to grab everything and collect everything with no real purpose. But then in 2010 and 2011, I started seeing all the lawsuits and all the legal issues that happen with trading cards. I mean, even just looking at a trading card, there's copyright notices, there's trademark notices, you have rights of publicity you have to deal with. and then you had the lawsuits that were on top of it. And so in 2010, I wrote my first article about the Topps versus Upper Deck lawsuit. And that had to do with Topps's 1975 frames. That Upper Deck had some inserts that utilized that same design, and Topps sued them over that. And so as I wrote the article, I went to my local hobby shop and, got some 75 cards, got some of the Upper Deck inserts. And I really liked how I could compare both of the cards that were at issue and then also explain it in the article that I wrote. And then after that, every time there was a legal issue or a lawsuit that came out, I wrote an article or I tweeted on it. And then I had to go back and get the card so I could explain it, because that's really what lawyers kind of do is, when you're talking to the judge or you're talking to the jury, you're trying to educate them about whatever issues that you have. So it's kind of natural that when it comes to trading cards and the issues there, I wanted to explain everything to everybody. But then after collecting the cards for any legal issues that were now, there's a rich litigation going backwards in time also. So I had to go back and try and collect as many cards. And it's quite a bit of the collection is on the walls in my office right there. And you can see that, there are quite a few cards that have legal issues, and I don't have them all. I hope to at some point, but the problem is some of these cards are worth a lot of money. So it's good to never have everything. You always want to be hunting for something. And that's, part of the fun of what this is.
It's so interesting to me that this is, we talk a lot in the hobby about finding a way to make the hobby connect to passions in your life. And with you being a practicing attorney, that concept of connecting both the hobby to legal matters is unique, right? There's probably not a lot of people that have the passion for both of those things like you do in a way that would make you want to draw those together. So I think that's cool how that got started. A couple questions there. You mentioned you wrote an article. Where did you write those articles at? Where were those published?
So the original article I wrote was just for my firm that I was at. They, most firms you're at, they like you to get involved in client development activities. And one day I'm like, hey, there's this great lawsuit. I want to write about it. And after I wrote that article, Cardboard Connection reached out to me. And they said, hey, we read this article. We'd like, if you have any free time, write an article every once in a while for us. And I'm like, fine. And it ended up becoming almost, because 2011 and 2012, there were so many lawsuits that were filed into the industry. So I ended up writing, probably several hundred articles for Cardboard Connection on legal issues over the years. And but then, more recently, within the last probably 10 years, I've been or maybe 8 years. I've been a little bit more busy at work, so I haven't had time to write articles, but any chance I get, I try to blog or tweet about the legal issues because I have a routine every morning. I try to get to the office. I don't sleep well, so I get to the office as early as possible. And unlike most people, I can't just instantly dive into work. So I have a number of searches set up on my browser. I go to the trademark office, go to the patent office. I go to court dockets. I have a number of cases that are set up. So basically, I have my window. I have about 23 windows that open up all at once in the morning, and I click through each one to see what's going on. And that's how I start my day. See if anything. Most times nothing happens. Sometimes something does. And if it's something new, before I tweet about it or do anything, I go to eBay and see if I can find the card and poach the card up eBay before I write about it.
I always love when I'm talking to somebody and the conversation automatically, naturally just goes to the next question that I had, because literally the next question I had was, what kind of searches do you do to make sure you don't miss a lawsuit? And you've already nailed that one. You've already covered it. One of the other things that you had touched on there is, as you started to get into it, you realize that these lawsuits also go back in time, and that there are cards and situations and things from the past that have led to some big legal issues. How far back does your collection go? How far back have you kind of gathered cards related to some of these legal matters that the hobby has seen?
The probably as far back as I've gone is the 40s and the 50s. And that's really right about the era of right when the right of publicity came about. Because I don't know if many non-legal people know, but the right of publicity, basically requiring permission of someone famous or an athlete to use their picture, that really was derived due to lawsuits in the trading card world over who the top signing athletes and other companies wanting to come into there, and there was a lot of litigation over that. So those are the oldest cards that I've got. The problem is, as you get older than that, there are other legal issues that you hear about. And I mean, not even just older than that, but even in the 70s or the 60s, there's legal issues that you've heard about that you can't really go to a database and find out if there's a lawsuit. So some of my collection, I collect on also rumors of lawsuits. Like there are some Topps cards where you have the Houston Astros, and I don't know the exact years. I think it might be like 50, 51, 52, where originally when the Houston Astros first came out, the Topps card said Astros. The next year, they just said Houston. And the rumor is that at the time, Monsanto had a trademark on AstroTurf, and that there may have been some type of dust up over that name, and that's why it went from Astros to Houston, then back to Astros after that, because the whatever problem may have been resolved. Now, I don't know if there's a lawsuit because there weren't really computer databases searchable back then, but it sounded good, so I collected those cards. So I would like to, at some point, if I ever get free time, I do want to try to put together like a coffee table book that would be the definitive book of lawsuits in the industry and actually show examples of all the cards. But the longer I'm doing this, I keep finding out about legal issues that I didn't know about. I mean, even just 2 weeks ago, somebody pointed out that Houston used to have they used to be called the Colt 45s. Mm-hmm. And then due to legal issues, they couldn't, that was owned by Colt. So then the next year they're just called the Colts, so I did just recently got those 2 cards to my collection. So it's
yeah, that kind of hits on, some of these lawsuits connect to a specific card. Like over the last couple of years, we saw Michael Jordan in the background of a couple different Panini cards, and those specific cards led to a flare up, between Panini and Upper Deck. But some of these other lawsuits, like you just mentioned, are a little more broad in nature, and it might account for an entire year's run of a team set, like you just mentioned with Houston. So how do you narrow in on what card fits? Is it just that particular card, or in a situation like this Houston dust up, do you get every Houston card from those releases? How do you narrow in like kind of what's going to fit in with your collection?
Originally, I tried to get every card. So and it started with the first lawsuit with the Topps versus Upper Deck over the 75 frames. I tried to get every single Upper Deck insert. But then at some point, it was at the point of diminishing returns, because when it comes to my wall, I'm not going to put all those cards up there. That's just too many cards. So now what I do is I try to get at least one, maybe the most prominent or one of the more prominent cards. And then as my collecting year goes, if I have a month or 2 where I'm not buying any cards, well, then I'll start to go back and fill holes. So the most important thing for me is to get one card, just to have one card to start it off, and then complete it, later. But even still now, I haven't completed that Topps Upper Deck insert set. I certainly don't have all the 75 Toppses. I probably could get those, but the Upper Deck inserts are a little bit more difficult to find each one that's there. And one of the first lawsuits that I was involved with, I don't know if you can see it over my shoulder, there are these Yu-Gi-Oh cards that Upper Deck actually counterfeited some of its own Yu-Gi-Oh cards that it sold. And there are, I don't remember if it's 12 or 10 or however many of them there are. But I spent about 8 years trying to find the original of each card, which was easy, and then to find the specific counterfeit. There's lots of counterfeit Yu-Gi-Oh cards that are out there, but I had to find the correct counterfeit. And the issue that we had was the counterfeits had a silver sticker on them, whereas the originals had a gold sticker on them. Now, some actual Yu-Gi-Oh cards would still have the silver sticker. It depended on first edition or first release, whatever it was. So quite often, and it was a running joke I had on Twitter, where I would ask for the last three counterfeit cards I was looking for. I'd see them on eBay. I think the sticker would look silver, and I asked the seller, "Hey, is this sticker, is it gold or silver?" And invariably, they all came back, "Oh, it's silver." So I'd order it, get it. 99-cent card shows up, it's gold. I'm like, "Oh, not again!" So I have a heck of collection of authentic Yu-Gi-Oh cards, which I didn't want. I wanted the counterfeits, but I think it was right when COVID started was when I got that last card and completed that set. So it's definitely something I will be doing for years. I don't want to hurry up and get them all. I try to get a bargain on them if I can, but sometimes that even backfires.
How many are you up to now? Like, how many cards are in this collection?
I don't know. It's enough that I have to rotate it.
Okay.
I try to display as many cards in my office as possible because I figure that's, my kids don't care about my cards. My wife doesn't care about my cards. And so we have more people come into the office. So I have at least enough to rotate at least 3 or 4 different collections of cards without a repeat up here. But I have my favorites. I have some that I keep up there the whole time. And then there's some lesser issues. And there's some I've forgotten what the issues actually are. So I have to go look them up.
What are some of those favorites?
This is actually too much of a glare.
Yep.
One of my favorite cards. This has to do with, it was actually one of the first Topps Now cards that I was aware of that had a typographical error on it. It's a Josh Harrison card that originally, when Topps sold it, they said it was a John Harrison card. So I placed an order for it. And Topps corrected it and made it a Josh Harrison card rather than a John Harrison card. So being a lawyer and liking cards involved in lawsuits, I'm like, well, this is an opportunity. So I brought a lawsuit against Topps saying, I want the John Harrison typo. I don't want the Josh Harrison card. I want the John Harrison card. That's what I bought. So, ultimately fast forward and, here we go in my collection. Now we have, both the Josh and the John Harrison card. So that's probably my all-time favorite card, just because, again, it's got the connection. It's, a card with legal issues. There was a lawsuit involved, and I got to actually say, and, I was the person that sued on it. So that's my personal favorite right now.
And that's probably part of the reason I think Topps on a lot of these print on demand products now have a disclaimer in there that, they're not responsible for typographical errors, that, basically what they show may not be the final copy that you see if there was a typo, right? Like, I'm sure
I've heard some people joke around that that's the Paul Lesko disclaimer.
So does that, one of the other things I was curious about, and that's a great example of one that you were directly involved with. So I wanted to know what one of your favorite lawsuit related cards were, but what is one of your favorite card related lawsuits in general?
Yeah.
I mean, that one you're involved with. So other than maybe that one that you instigated, what is one of your other favorite card related lawsuits?
So my favorite card related lawsuit, and it's a difficult one that I probably, can't get a card from. It's Upper Deck versus Upper Deck. There was a lawsuit where the U.S. Upper Deck was sued by the European Upper Deck. And it basically was over those Yu-Gi-Oh cards and the settlement for the Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and the European company didn't like that. And I like that lawsuit so much because it was just an absolutely crazy lawsuit. I mean, you don't often see, you don't see Coca-Cola versus Coca-Cola. I mean, I even think they had joke ads about that where, new Coke wanted to sue old Coke, or I don't remember exactly what it was. So just the name of that lawsuit was crazy. But then internally within that lawsuit, there was name calling. It was, I called it the Jerry Springer experience because it was so much infighting. And during that lawsuit, there was a hearing where for some reason, one of the parties produced one of my articles, because I wrote a lot about that lawsuit, to the judge. And I think it had to do with, they wanted a confidentiality order to make sure some of their detailed information wouldn't go out to the press. And the judge in that lawsuit said that, I've read an article that was attached that compared this lawsuit to a Jerry Springer experience, and I find that description apt. And I just love that because I'm like, hey, a judge just called me apt, So that's my personal favorite lawsuit that's out there. But I don't really have a card from it because it's really the cards from when Yu-Gi-Oh sued Upper Deck. But I guess I can kind of say that. But my current favorite card with legal issues would be the this Justin Herbert Downtown card.
Yep.
This is one where recently a artist, and I don't know his name yet. I should really know his name. Once this Downtown card was out and released, he posted on Twitter and said, "Hey, Panini, that's my art." And he attached three images that he had, which were each of these characters that are on there. Those are his Bolt Hero characters that he has. And he alleged that Panini didn't have permission to put those Bolt Heroes on his card. So no lawsuit has been filed yet on this. Part of the reason I think is because you can't sue unless you have a copyright registration in hand. And that takes several months to get a copyright registration. So I bought this card preemptively. It's got legal issues, so I thought that was good enough. But I'm fingers crossed, hoping in 2022 we do see a lawsuit on this card. But it's my personal favorite card that I have right now.
You had talked about making some tweets and kind of showing off some of the cards that you've tracked down, some of the things that you're monitoring on Twitter. One of the other things that you've done recently on Twitter is kind of kicked off a tournament of hobby annoyances. Talk to me a little bit about where that idea came from.
Sure. It was 3 years ago. I think it was probably right before COVID or right during COVID. Everybody in the hobby has their own little personal annoyances, and they're all kind of funny, whether it's please cancel this order. My kid accidentally purchased this for me, or when you're looking at an eBay, somebody has "look" written in the description, or "please read." There's all these little like red flags or little issues that are out there. And one day I was just joking around and saying, wouldn't it be funny if we did like some type of tournament to see which was the most annoying? And after I did that, people said that might be a good idea. And so I just went down and went into Excel and tried to write down as many of annoyances as I found. And there's a lot. I mean, I really quickly got to 64. Then I asked for some others that people had and put some of those in. And, then I just today would have completed the third of these, our third hobby annoyances tournament. And it got so large that the last 2 years I had to have play-in games to even get into the field of 64 to be annoyance. So it's taken off. I have a lot of fun doing it. It takes a whole month to get through everything. I hope a lot of the collectors like it. This year, I heard some people say, "Hey, can we put the hobby annoyances tournament in the tournament next year?" Because it kind of annoys me too. So I think we'll have to do that also and see if that ultimately ends up winning. That'll be the last year we do the tournament. But
what were the big upsets this year, as far as what you thought compared to what actually played out?
I thought for sure NFTs would make it to the final round because so many people don't like NFTs. But no, it got pretty far, but it was knocked out and didn't quite make it there. Being a lawyer, I am always pulling for exclusive licenses, and I have it's even in the tournament twice: exclusive licenses with players, and then exclusive licenses with the leagues. Well, exclusive licenses with the players got knocked out first round, and then exclusive licenses with the leagues got knocked out second round. And that I just find that as a lawyer, that it's really disappointing to me. But as a collector, it's even worse because that's really one of what I think is the biggest problem is exclusive licenses with manufacturers. But I guess everybody else is happy with only one manufacturer making licensed product.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that's one of my biggest annoyances, and that would have been one of my votes. I wonder just how much of it has been people at this point feel resolved to the fact that that's the way it's going to be, especially with this recent Fanatics deal that we've just signed. That seems to be for extended periods of time, a renewal with Upper Deck in the NHL for an extended period of time. I wonder if people are just giving up on the hope that someday we'll see multi-company licenses again. I wonder if that's a piece of why that just fell out so quickly this year.
Yeah, and I also think as collectors, as we get older and as collectors get younger, we have to keep in mind that when I started collecting in the '80s, there were a lot of manufacturers who were making a lot of licensed product. If you've only been collecting for the last 4, 5, 6 years, you haven't seen that, so it's not going to be annoying to people because they don't know how great competition actually can be. So,
well, I appreciate you coming on, talking a little bit about what you're passionate about and this collection that you're building. It seems like a lot of fun. I appreciate the uniqueness and the variety that it represents. And I definitely appreciate the insight that you bring to some of these card related lawsuits. If people want to follow along, if people want to learn more about what's going on, where can they connect with you and follow along with some of these thoughts, ideas, and concepts that you're sharing? Where can people follow you?
Yeah, I'm pretty active on Twitter. So at Paul_Lesko, that's the easiest way to find me. I try to respond to everybody who reaches out to me. So if you have, I don't give legal advice over the internet, but if you have questions that are out there or things to look for, I'd be happy to talk to you.
Well, thanks again for coming on today. I really appreciate the time.
No, thanks for having me. And as I'm sure a collector's favorite thing to do is talk about his own collection. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to do that.
The Sports Card Shop is your small-town local card shop with a global reach. Located in New Buffalo, Michigan, the shop is one of the most accessible in the Midwest. In addition to being an authorized Panini direct dealer, the Sports Card Shop carries all major trading card brands, including Topps, Upper Deck, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, and more. With all that new wax, 500,000 singles, and showcases full of graded cards, you're sure to find something great for your collection. Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned collector, the Sports Card Shop is your one-stop shop. So call us, come see us, or visit us on the web and social media. Our phone number is 269-469-0140. Website is thesportscardshop@moco.com. The Sports Card Shop is part of the MoCo Retail Group, connecting sports, the hobby, and people around the world.
So if you've ever wanted to start a card collection based on cards that have relation to legal matters, then Paul just gave you some great ideas on how to get started with that. Paul is a great follow on Twitter. It's at Paul_Lesko, and he has great input. He has a great insight into all of these lawsuits that we see from that pop up from time to time. So check out Paul's Twitter and follow along if you have any interest in that. Let me know what you thought about today's episode. Reach out on Twitter at @TheMikeSummer. Send me an email at WaxPackHero@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram or TikTok at WaxPackHero. I'd love to hear what you think about the show. I'd love to hear what you think about Paul's Super Collection. Well, that is all I have for you today. So I'll catch you next time.